Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo.
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
Che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita
esiste anche grazie a te.
Buonasera a tutti.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this meeting on the title Investing on the Talent of Everyone. And I'm Mattia Ferraresi, he's a journalist from Domani, and I'm really pleased that we have in this meeting that it's a kind of anomalous encounter, because I'd say why it's anomalous in format in the best possible way. It contains anomalies in the sense that we're often in many topics, including that of disability, you speak in two different keys that never meet. On one side, the institutions, politics, etc., and on the other side, the dimension of testimony, of recounting of people who live this experience. And so this is anomalous because on this stage we have the two voices together, and we can dialogue together about this, and I hope really in the spirit of the meeting. And so I'll go on to the topic. Disability isn't a limit to overcome, but a pillar on which we can build an authentic community. To become aware of this, we need a radical change of the way we look at things. I like this idea of authentic communities and of changing our gaze on things. And so we speak about it in various ways, but I propose that, to you and to my guests, a dialogue. And I'll present the guests to you. On my immediate left, we have Alessandra Locatelli, who's the Minister for Disabilities. And further from me, we have Lucchin and Amerigo Basso, who are the parents of Sammy Basso. And we welcome them with great applause. Many of you know of Sammy Basso, but also for those who don't know him, know his history, his story, this is a chance also to know him, even for those who've maybe only come across him superficially, but to deepen with it for people who've never heard about him. So this is a great chance for this. I'd like to start speaking with the Minister. And I know that there's a video that maybe we can see, and as an introduction, a contribution to my first question, which already I'll reveal to you, and the video will help us to get into this dimension. Minister, you often speak of the necessity of a change of approach, even a change of language, of mentality, when we're talking about disability. But I'd say more deeply, maybe a change of conception. So I'd like to launch this video contribution from the Minister, and invite Minister to comment it, because it's a video with music, but maybe commenting on it, you can help us to orientate ourselves in what you're telling us. So here I'll ask the team to start with the video. Thank you. I'll say hello to everybody. Sorry, I thought the video was starting already, but I'll introduce it. I want to thank the organisers of the meeting and all of you who are here today. For me, it's a great chance also to have met the parents of Sammy, who has an important story to tell, which I believe could be really a chance to share it together, but also a chance to reflecting and coming out of here, not even among us speaking about the theme of inclusion and disability, the value of every person, but to say it to everybody outside. And so maybe in the video we'll see an extraordinary event, which is that of the G7, which happened the first time in Italy. Thank you to Italy for this, and first time in 70 years. Sorry, since the 70s, when it's happened. It actually spoke of people, of inclusion, of disabilities. And we did it in Assisi. Not everybody knows this place, but it's extraordinary at the international level. When we talk about a change of perspective, it's not just here, we have to do it in the whole world. Okay, and I'll stop. The video's ready, I believe. So we wanted to do this in a city that's spiritual, I'd say, evocative, and also complex like Assisi is. Because we brought it into this public square there. You can hear some pictures of the stand that we had in the Plaza of Assisi. We were able to, all along the road, we had the associations showing their stands. So many images of the seven ministers of the G7, including Europe, plus special guests, and they came in person. All these ministers who were due to participate, and on the square, which had more than 6,000 people in it, we went to the castle for the official photo, and which you can actually see we did it holding hands, because the social world, the world that other people have, is a world which can't always remain just closed in one category. So we want to show the value, the capacities, the skills of every person. So even all the gadgets that you can see here that the disabled kids are making, this is an important thing that they were able to show that they made pens, they made the things for the institutional gifts of highest quality. So we weren't leaving anything to chance. Even the scarves that were given were made of silk, very precious silk, and they were painted by hand by these kids with autistic spectral disorders, and they were given to everybody here as to show that we need to be concrete, that Italy wants to be present here, but not just in words. We want to be showing every day that what we do. And that everybody could see a minimal part, if you like, if you think about all the things that we do. I'm sure there are many people who know a great deal about this in this room, and that there are many realities in all of Italy that organise projects, give chances to people to help develop and give opportunities. And they're the ones who cooked for the ministers, and there are more than 350 people there at the official dinner, the gala dinner. There are many people from these institutions and also associations, and it was the associations of disabled people who prepared the meal and were welcoming the guests into here, and doing the coffee breaks, or making the biscuits. Everything was done by these lads, these kids, and even serving at the tables, and even played music for them. Because on the stage in Assisi, all the ministers came, but also all the national anthems were sung by a special band of people with disability, with every kind of disability. So this shows that if you want, we can do everything together. Together, absolutely, because we can struggle on our own, but there are some principles on which I think we can only reach together. The rights of everybody to full citizenship, which means many things in terms of creativity, sport, many things, and other things come to mind. The right to accessibility, which isn't just physical cases, but disability has many forms, and this project of life, which is the great challenge, but also for many families, for many people to overcome the fragmentation between the different health and medical interventions and social things. So we can only do this stuff together. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I'd like to take an extra step here, add some more information, in the terms that when talking about people with disabilities, there is often a specific kind of rhetoric that bubbles underneath that's quite existentialist, that, in many public interventions, many public moments, even as we've been talking earlier or in these previous days, you've been telling us and definitely promoting a certain new idea that we're finding, as this kind of the cultural way we're used to talking about disabilities. Could you tell us more about what this means? If I'm understanding correctly, what is this this change that you're proposing? So I think it's at the root of everything. We're all people. We're all part of this world. We all need to have some opportunities. We need to think that there's not, a separate world for people who only need to be helped or cured or from a health perspective. But it's a world made by needs. All of us need, we need health, we need welfare, we need well-being in our lives. We need somewhere to live, we need somewhere to work. But we also need, we need recreation, we need social spaces, we need places for affection, for relationships. We all need all of this. And so what we need to do is to begin to believe, and I believe profoundly, in the value of every person. And as a private sector, as institutions, but also individuals, we need to start to do this from a different perspective, which is not just mine, but we all need to work together on this in this wonderful community. And we need to begin to offer opportunities to people to have this value emerge. And I believe profoundly in this, that I think at the root of everything else that I do personally, from championing reform to traveling the country, promoting new initiatives, at the root of all of this is this shift in values. I've been talking about this earlier and yesterday too with Sammy's parents, that there's that fact that often these topics are, of second, third, or 30th in the rank of importance. These topics never appear on the news, and often, I get annoyed because I truly believe it. It's sometimes it's quite provocatory. When I turn on the TV, I never see things like these projects that I saw when I was in Ravenna, rather than another wonderful initiative that many maybe brings together young people in our country, or another great activity that's done on housing that gives access to better lives for millions of people in Italy. That for people need, there are many people who need these new opportunities, and they particularly need someone who invests in them, who counts on them. In the short term, there's certainly a lot we can do. I'd like to talk now to Sammy's parents. There's also a brief video contribution here that we'll go over in a second, and we'll use as an introduction. Sammy Basso died last year in October. He had a very rare disease that was called progeria. He lived a short life, but one that was truly full of life. He lived intensely. Many of us knew him, saw him. He was a public figure in the debate that been bringing forward the beautiful experience he'd lived in his life. And I'd like you to talk to us about this. We were talking about this earlier as well, when you were sharing a few stories before this talk here, but I'm sure, and you'll tell us that it was your journey that was full of struggles, full of difficulties. But let's move back to the next question, and I'd like for you guys to tell us throughout your story that we'll introduce with a short video here. I'd like to focus on the good aspects, on the beauty that Sammy brought to our lives. And, that thanks to, your story and his personality and to your friends, you told me often about Sammy's friends and how he shared all these aspects of his life with him. His life was full of friendship, and that he touched the lives of many people. So before moving on to, well, let's move on to the video.
Curare la progeria. La progeria è una cosa che non capita, è scritta nel DNA. 2 anni mi è stata diagnosticata una malattia genetica, la progeria, che è una malattia che non solo dà dei sintomi, però limita fisicamente. Mi piace sempre pensare che già non ci conosciamo profondamente noi stessi. Spesso non conosciamo benissimo neanche chi ci sta attorno. L'amore è uno dei sentimenti più autentici. Non so se la parola felice sia la parola giusta, ma che la mia vita è degna di essere vissuta, questo sì. Una delle cose più importanti che facciamo, oltre a fare ricerca e raccogliere fondi, è proprio quello di guidare le famiglie. Da soli fin là possiamo arrivare, perché abbiamo tutti quanti dei limiti, però tutti insieme questi limiti si superano e si arriva fino al traguardo. Il mio sogno. Il mio sogno è poter dire sì, vostro figlio, vostra figlia ha la progeria, ma noi sappiamo curarlo e crescerà come una persona perfettamente sana.
Hello everyone, thank you for inviting us, we're very glad to be here. It's difficult to talk after seeing that video, even because it really, sets a lot of emotions at place, who was Sammy? Sammy loved life, both his life and that of others. He brought joy and a desire to live, a will to fight on, not only for his own life, but for those of others, particularly those of others. And he did everything not for himself, but for others. He always said, and he was happy. He did it, with his heart on his sleeve, and he really had that desire to go out there and help people, which is something huge. For us, for me, it was the greatest gift that I've ever received in my life. Sammy and his illness. Because the illness, alongside Sammy, made me understand the importance of being present in this world, of what we're doing here now. They made me understand the true meaning of life, enjoying everything, making the most of everything, of the little things, the large things, of the joy of seeing other people, of living. A great many things. In the video we saw a small part of who Sammy was. He was a volcano. He was a real volcano. He did everything. With his friends, he did crazy things that, seeing them now, even his physiotherapist, when he saw them, he was, he put his hands in his head and he said, "Oh Lord, if I'd seen him earlier, I'd have forbidden this." You can see him, running Sammy up those stairs and running in that plaza, with all the problems he had, it made your hair stand on end. But Sammy did this. So with the videos that he made with his friends, he had great fun doing it. But he was sending great messages about what you can do, not alone, but with others. He never did anything on his own. He always did it with his friends, with groups. And he always said that, something done on your own is good, but something done along with others is immense. That a burden, lived and undertaken with others is something incredible, is something wonderful. Tell us, it was clear when he was running the marathon along with everyone else. At a certain point, he was surrounded by an infinite number of friends. He had huge numbers of them, and as his friends asked him, "Sammy, what would you want to do that you can't do?" And he said, "I don't know. I can't run. I can't run at all. What you saw in the video there was really something else. But I can't even walk for a long time. He could walk for a couple hundred meters or so, but then he'd need his wheelchair. Walking, running. Well, okay, let's run marathons then," his friends said. So they built a special kind of wheelchair, and they made him run a marathon. He ran twice in Milan, twice in Venice. He went in Rome, many half marathons. And him using the legs of his friends, he'd run for 42K. He'd run hundreds, thousands of meters, surrounded by all his friends. Who they'd alternate to pull and push this wheelchair. And together, they by doing these marathons, they'd raise awareness of progeria, of the association, the charity, and what they could do to help. These are friends of his who'd never run anything. They trained, and they still run marathons. They carry on. They said, we'll carry on the project that we started with Sammy because it's our project. We all share it, and we want to find a cure. And so they've carried on going. They're carrying on all the work that Sammy did. if you'd like to add anything else, Amerigo. Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. I'd add that Sammy had, a great many projects in play, not just the marathons, but, he always had things going on with his friends. Yeah. They were raising awareness about the availability of defibrillators, about helping others. This was something that was very close to his heart. All people with progeria have significant problems to their heart, and so he always had a lot of projects about research, but about not just research, but also about people, about how people can get involved, how they can help, and he was really, a 360 kind of person. He was all in. Thank you. I'd like to ask the minister, from what we're hearing now, and then we'll go back to what we've been hearing earlier from Laura and Amerigo about the life of Sammy, and also what we've been hearing in general in these days, and I think particularly among others, one of the exhibitions, and that's still here, because if you haven't already, make sure you go and visit it. The treasure in vases that it also talks about disability. And it really speaks to all of us of a deep reality, and I think this is all bearing witness of a certain new awareness that puts people at the heart of it, of their irreducible sense of dignity. And I think this I'd like this to come out from the stories that we're telling, that we're hearing on this stage, and from many others, that are stories that the minister you likely see every day. I imagine it's a great effort, a great undertaking, and it's a journey that's full of unknown obstacles. How can we create new policies that really put people at the center and their irreducible dignity? Because, as you know, and here I'll add another small aspect, it's been said partially, but I'll re-say it, that when you say the word disability, any family might always say that, there's a specific case, there's this specific need, there's this requirement. I understand that from a perspective that those who need to create a public policy, this is quite the challenge. So, it's the centrality of people that interests me most.
Sammy Basso.
So, Sammy said this, but I think I'll also say this: the life of every person is worth being lived because it's life, and we're not speaking of opportunity. We speak of opportunities to invest in people. It's not. They're not just categories, or the category even of people with disabilities who have more capacities, more abilities. No, we speak of the life of every person, each person who has a need. They also need relationships of closeness, of humanity many times, even in the most complex situations. That is, we're not talking only about disability, physical disability, or cognitive, intellectual disability, rare diseases, etc. We're speaking about all of this, but it's the most complex, difficult moments of life for every person. They need to be felt that there's somebody close to them, that this is life, this special thing. When you, in closeness to someone, in humanity of a gesture, of a smile, a caress, this happens to everyone, even in the most complex situations. I think that this is something that can't be denied and can't be taken away from anyone. Above even more, we should do more of this within hospitals, within the homes, the structures. There's more to be done here to overcome that idea that maybe is a bit of an old idea that comes out of the services when they're born 40, 50 years ago. The idea that people themselves are different. They have different needs. But today, instead, we can say that the perspective, the way of looking at something goes beyond that. It's in the direction of keeping together both the healthcare aspect and the social care aspect, but also in the dimension of relationships, of social life, which you can't. You can develop this by going to do sport or workshops, activities, creative stuff. People need that stuff, but other people need maybe to have simply to have friends close to them, someone who can say, so we need to look at the person themselves, looking at them, put them in the centre, and this lets us interpret this essence of life that I'd say in the question that we can put in politics and social policies and health policies, that we can do many things, but the point is to have the strength, the desire and the determination to go ahead with this vision, because not everybody thinks like this. Many people get discouraged. There are difficult moments in the life of people, and not just for people with a chronic degenerative disease, but each one of us can have a difficult moment in life. But if there's motivation and passion, like that which made Sammy run, and that involved many other people and make life and emotions involved to help you stay better, this sort of thing gives you motivation to do what we believe, to help us invest more in this type of action, of activity, which aren't only the part of caring healthcare systems, but also to grasp who's in front of you, that this is a person. So starting in the disability area, we start from this. I think there's a lot of need to diffuse this point of view, this way of acting in many other institutional levels, in many other fields in our world. But something I think is happening, and this encourages me. If we're here to talk about it today, and we're here speaking of true cultural change, then I think we've got a reflection that's going on. There's a lot still to do, but I think we've started. And with the perhaps more hidden bit of our country, which in some ways is the most beautiful, the most important, and the most determining, I'm convinced that together we can walk this path together, and we can do it both in politics and in the concrete things that each one every day can bring forward. Thank you. I'd said that I was going to say that I'll ask you about difficulties, but can you tell us maybe how this started? Tell us about the diagnosis, the discovery, perhaps, of this very rare illness. I would like you to talk to us a bit about your history, your story, how it started. And the other thing I'd like to ask is, Sammy, for those who don't know him, he dedicated all his life, his studies, and his 2 degrees, if I'm not mistaken, about the studying of his sickness, his illness. And so people may not be aware, but he knew the subject deeply. And in another sense, I want to ask you, what relationship did he have with his illness? Yeah, I think you can see what I'm going. Thank you. There's a lot there. Yeah. We knew about Sammy's illness when he was 2 years old, 2 years and 1 month. The first couple of years, we spent and get back and forth between our house and the hospital in Padova, because there seemed something that it wasn't quite right. There's something he didn't do much. There are many little clues, if you like, but nobody could really understand. Or they said, okay, maybe everything will sort itself out. You just need a bit more time. Everybody's different from each other and so on. But then at some point, we saw some particular signs, and we thought, okay, let's do a genetic test, and then we'll get rid of this doubt. And so we went to Padova, to the hospital, and nobody had explained that probably in doing this this inspection of Sammy that something would have come out. And indeed, in that appointment, we had that diagnosis of Sammy. We went there to happily, calmly to visit the hospital, as we've done many times. We'd had, it'll all be the usual stuff, and then we'll go back home and carry on as normal. Instead, it wasn't like that. At the end of this appointment with the doctor, where we speaking, I mean, it's now 27 years ago. 27 years ago, that changed everything. Changed everything completely. It was a morphological measurements were taken, and they showed us, I'm sorry, your son has progeria. And we said, okay, maybe you can explain it. And there they went. Progeria means precocious aging. He said that they described what Sammy's life would be like, what our life would be like with Sammy, what would happen to him, what were the problems of progeria. They really gave us what was known at the time, which was not very much. But at that moment, they told us everything that they knew, and at the end they said, the median lifespan of a son like yours is 13 years or so about. We're sorry, there are no drugs, there are no cures, there's no research, there's nothing. Enjoy Sammy while you've still got him. And the first checks they did was when he was 6-year-old on his heart, because that's the most impacted organ. And that was it. We went home. Closed. We were closed. It's like there was nothing else. There's no other thing. So we went home with this in our hearts. I felt like something had stabbed me in the heart. I really understood that moment when I heard about other families who had it. And they said it's like the world fell down on top of me. I was looking at Sammy playing in the corner there, and they say it seems they're not talking about my son. It's impossible because my son's all right. And then when you get home, and really we said, okay, and so now what are we going to do? Because they didn't tell us anything. What to do, and so the first period was hell for us. Truly, it was. These first 10 days or so, we put him under a glass dome almost, because we thought, oh no, anything could happen to him. And then Sammy, the little smart kid that he was, he made us understand that we were spoiling everything. And so our husband and I, we said, okay, let's turn everything around. And we need to let him live, really live. Sammy must live. So then we started Sammy's new life and our new life. And we said, he needs to have a life that's full, normal, same as everybody. And so what happened in that moment? You said in that moment something happened, or did it just kind of happen? We realized that we weren't helping him live because we were afraid of everything, and so we were denying everything to him. And so because we had no information, we knew nothing, but not even the doctors, they didn't know anything really, because it was so rare that there's nothing about. So we felt really empty, because what should we do? What we're supposed to do with this illness? And so we said, okay, there's nothing to help, but he must live. He must have all of the experiences that his friends do. And so we said, okay, I've decided that I'll stay at home with Sammy, that I will accompany him in everything. He had to work, and so that way our life went on. Because Sammy had to live, and that was the principle, the key thing there, not to let him miss any opportunity. And this was the difference that's changed everything, because we didn't deny anything to him. We always said, yes, if you want it, you can do it, and I'm here with you, we're with you. If you can't manage it, if you can't do it, it doesn't matter. you'll have another go, or we'll change something, or you'll change, but you do it. You do everything. And I think this was the thing that won. Amerigo, maybe you'd like to add something. I wanted to just add that when we put Sammy under a bell jar, he realised straight away that something had happened, and so he started to have kind of claims on us, to be bossy, no more rules, and so that really made us reflect, because we couldn't let him go without kind of rules, without an aim in life. So we were taking away any kind of goal in life for him. Maybe this helped us change idea, and was the thing that helped us say, okay, let's make him live, to grow, to live, because we also live. It was what we were doing was no longer life for ourselves. It was no longer. We were isolating ourselves from everybody, because when you put somebody under a dome, you do the same for yourself, and we didn't want that for our son. So, what relationship did he have with his illness? He's spoken publicly, he's told. We've seen a few fragments of it, but obviously you've seen things that perhaps only you could have seen naturally as parents. So he was very serene. He never wanted to know that he had people to have an illness. So he knew. We always explained everything to him, even from when he was little. And bit by bit, as he grew, then we tried to add something to explain what it was, what he was going to meet. And so one day he looked in the mirror and said, "But is this an illness just because I'm different from other people?" And so this, I think, gave him a lot of serenity and a lot of awareness. Thank you. A question for both of you, and then I'll start perhaps with the Minister as well. When we talk of these topics, that we've seen also, for those who've had the chance to see the exhibition that I was quoting before, there's an aspect that we've seen your contributions, many beautiful stories, that when we're speaking of talent, valuing the potential of everybody, these are great things naturally, and on which rightly politics and society are working on these. And that there's also, as we also said, people with disability means many things, but also people with situations who are really grave, and so that it's an enormous spectrum. So here, what struck me looking at this exhibition on Herman the Lame, also this aspect, there's a point in which we are able to say the value of a person isn't nothing to do with what they are able to do. This doesn't mean that somebody doesn't want to do, doesn't believe, doesn't push to do as much as possible to do things and to do even more things. Certainly that's evident. But at the same time, it's as if deep down there's something that would say, but the value is really intrinsic to the person, or it's not. That's a fork in the road that's just pretty clear, and understand that it's something that isn't really simple to speak about, because at the same time we need to keep together both the beauty of a life that's lived like Sammy did, doing things, pushing all against all the limits. And on the other side, there are also conditions in which mysteriously, evidently, in very different ways, that this potential, you don't see it immediately. It's not immediately visible. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but maybe it's not immediately visible or measurable. So I want to ask to both of you, or each one can respond from their own background in their own way. But I'd ask you a word about this, because I think that it's important even to think about certain cases that are maybe different from what we've seen. Yeah, maybe first I touched on the importance of life in the person, the life made extraordinary of the person as they are, and the person, the extraordinary person, because they are life. So this is a relationship that we can't ignore. The really important thing is that I was saying before that there are times of discouragement, of difficult times. Everybody has those, and Sammy's mum, Laura, was saying so. That when there's somebody close to you, somebody near you, everything's different, and you feel yourself a bit less alone. You get encouraged, and this aspect I think is fundamental. We can't think of the individual alone. Life, the person, mustn't be alone. We need to think about it in this context together with others, because this is fundamental. And it's clear that there are many people who, I'd say, people who have negative interactions with their surroundings. The disability isn't within us. It's not a label that everybody carries. It's something that is determined by your environment. If there's someone close to you who helps you, if there are people or medicines that can help you, or that to help you to grasp your passion, your activity, everything changes. It changes because Sammy alone wouldn't have been able to get out of the glass jar, but if someone's able to help him, to give him a hand, to give him the chance, then everything changes. And so these potentialities, the capacities emerge, and it's clear that we can have in front of us even situations that are so complex, but the world has changed, and I must say, truly. So sure, there are some pathologies that are very, very serious, and there are people who are bedridden or have a dependencies that can be different. But the human presence doesn't change for anyone. The closeness of a human presence, you need it in whatever way you live, and I think whatever condition you have in your life. So this can't change. There are, and I was saying, situations where you see that the world has changed and many things have changed. For instance, the disabled people once upon a time didn't leave home, didn't leave the glass jar, the dome. It was never like that. This is another way of interpreting the person. But now there are people who, with great complex disabilities, who need catheters, who need respiratory help, etc., who manage to go on journeys, to go on holidays, who have a life that would like to be like everybody else, chosen, decided, starting from their own desires and their own preferences. And this is what the UN Convention says. And I quoted it. I said, because it's the law in our country. It has been the law for 16 years in this country, that and everybody thinks it's just a little handbook or something for those who are in the business. But no, it's the law. It's a document that was ratified in 2009 in our country, to which we refer because all of the cardinal principles of this UN Convention must be implemented, ideally a bit quicker if we can. From the document that we saw, the documentary that we saw, that there are shared things on a worldwide level on many aspects that deal with the person, but even the most innovative things, because today we're in front of a world that has changed with technology, with research. That's a fundamental importance of research. If I can do a little parenthesis in this direction, I can see in the societies, also thanks to President Annalisa Scopiani, we discover many families. What was struck, how important it was to know what your child actually has. They hadn't lived, they weren't calmly, the ones that I'd met, until they'd had the diagnosis. Afterwards, they could face it differently. They said, okay, now I know what my child has, and now we'll live our life as we can. We'll seek to offer them everything that's possible. After that, because you didn't do it. There's a lot, you didn't say it, but I will. There's a lot to do, both in terms of services, cares, health care, social care, etc. All levels, national, regional and local. There's a lot to be done. But what we want to do with the reforms on disabilities to overcome this fragmentation for which everybody thinks that you think that if you have an illness, that you only need medicines and don't need all the rest. And that's wrong. You're a person and you need everything. We know that there are difficulties that with the theme of integration that we've been talking about many years, that we've still not reached the target there. And I say this because I want that together we can change this mentality of those who work in this area and must face what's in front of when they have in front of them a person, a family, that they can't face it, just even the communications, which can still happen. So there's still people who receive diagnoses and they're left alone, and different diagnoses, but old people with Alzheimer's or whatever, or Parkinson's, or other degenerative things, that's not admissible. We can do something better than this, because we need in this human spark as well. I'll relaunch the question. So I'll join in with what you said at the beginning when you were speaking of talents. We as a family, and Sammy, with us, inside us, was a fervent believer. We say that the Lord gives talent to each one of us, and he expects that each one of us will bring it forth and make it worthwhile. A bit different is when a disabled person, and they need people around them who help this person to let this talent emerge, because we all have them. So each one of them must understand what they are and then put them in practice, bring them out, and then they're beautiful. We did our bit. I think many times people ask us, say to us, well done. I said, I just did what a mum does. I simply did the mum thing. And so what felt right to me. So maybe I made some mistakes, but I did this. We did a path together. We bumped many times in our heads on it, because it's not easy. We banged heads so many times. It's not straightforward, but we grew. And I always thank Sammy, because as Sammy grew, but at the same time I grew. I've done a beautiful path in my life together with Sammy. I wouldn't be what I am today if I hadn't had Sammy and his illness. And then things to improve, certainly. There will always be that. There will always be many things that we can improve. But as Sammy would say, we can't just put a container with all disabilities inside it, because that's totally wrong. Many times, Sammy was asked to speak about disabilities, and he said no. Always said, I can speak, but I can speak of my disability with my experience that I've got, but certainly I can't put myself on the same as other people, because they're all completely different. So even with progeria, it's different from somebody with a different case of progeria, because everyone has a personality, a way of thinking, a way of seeing life, and we're all completely different. And so this, I think, is perhaps the most difficult part, because it becomes really very variegated. But together, we can do a lot. With our association, we're doing many things. We're helping not just the few cases that are in Italy, but all those in Europe. And we're in collaboration with an American team. We're really we've become almost a kind of single association, because the cases are so few. But we're making a difference. Sammy's making a difference. Sammy did a lot, as Amerigo said. he wanted to study to become a molecular biologist and study his illness. He made a difference in the team in Boston that is doing research, new innovative genetic research that will be the future, because progeria can only be cured with genetics, like many other illnesses. So he was working in this area, and he was really important in this team because he was the only patient with progeria to ever become a molecular biologist and bring his experience of researcher and of patient and the links there, the links with associations, with families. He was such a person like this, that so variegated, that he made the difference there. And so I'll go back to what you were saying before. We bring forth the talents of everyone, and this is really important, I think. Thank you. Thank you. So let's move to the conclusion, unfortunately, because there'd be many things that we'd like to say, many beautiful things to experience for everyone, but I want to ask something particularly to Laura, but also to the minister to speak on this. Sammy was a great witness of faith. Laura hinted at it now. Many, I believe, and you've confirmed this a bit speaking earlier, many perhaps knew him superficially, had heard him speak, being a kind of a public figure, but they knew perhaps Sammy and his history after his death, when there was published a letter that he had written several years before his death, but really with the aim of being published after his death. The newspapers called it a spiritual testament. It's an extraordinary document that should be read in its entirety, but I'll ask you, the patients, to just read a couple of bits of it, and then I'll ask Laura to comment on it, and maybe if the minister could, if she feels it's if it's right. So 2 little passages that he wrote. I don't know why and how the reasons of this world, but certainly many will say that I lost my battle against the illness. Don't listen to them. There was never any battle to fight. There was only a life to embrace as it was, with its difficulties, but always splendid, always fantastic, not a condemnation, always a gift from God. And then another quote, another bit. Don't tie yourself, my brothers, to follow the path that God has marked out for you, and help each other to live it, as Jesus was helped by Joseph of Arimathea, and never renounce for a full relationship with God. Accept His will, because it's our duty. But don't be passive. Let your voice be felt strongly. Let God know your will, like Jacob did, who demonstrated, because of the strength he demonstrated, he was called Israel, the one who struggles with God. It's almost impossible to comment on this, but what came through your mind and your hearts when you read these words? We didn't know about this letter because his therapist kept it. Who was his friend for ages. He'd written 14 letters in 2017, and late 2017, because coming back from an appointment at Boston with the doctors there, that they talked about his heart and the problems that he got, and he just needed to decide what to do. And in that moment, that there wasn't much to do. There wasn't much that could be done. So he wrote these letters only because, just in case something would happen, and he wanted to still say something to those people to whom he still had something to say. There was the researchers, the research groups, his friends, the Sammy runners, his physiotherapist, and these people that had accompanied him in all the years of his life, and who had done a journey of growth with him. One of these letters was this letter that he expressed his desire that it might be read during his funeral, but only to say something to the people who were present at his funeral. And then it became a viral thing. We read it 2 days after he passed away, and to two priest friends who were there in the house with us, and they said, "Okay, well, we'll let the bishop. We'll ask the bishop to read it," because the bishop had already decided that he would celebrate the ceremony, and the bishop read the letter and said he asked us for our permission, as if he could read it as the homily at Sammy's funeral, because he says, "I'm not going to touch it because it's perfect." And I felt myself to be this big when he said that, and we knew nothing about it, and we were thrown down because not by the greatness, but of how Sammy was and the depth in which he saw all the aspects of his life, especially the religious studies. But we didn't expect anything like it. The profundity of this letter, which for us was truly that helped us so much. We were desperate, even though we knew sooner or later it would happen, but you're never ready for it. You're never ready, even because he started that Saturday morning to have a party with his friends at the wedding of some friends, and he went out and he didn't come back. He died during the party. So at that moment that I already accompanied him through his life on all the different places and everything, visits to the doctors, checkups, etc. I'd imagined that in that moment I'd have to be there, but he decided that I wouldn't be there. Maybe to not give me that displeasure, but that letter gives you serenity, so much serenity, and so much love, so much love. Thank you. Sammy was a man who's really a believer, but also a great seeker, searcher. His faith always accompanied him, even during his life as a researcher, as a man of science. He always put faith and science on 2 parallel tracks. And they couldn't have one without the other. And on these two tracks, he always journeyed, making of his life really an experience of deep faith. Thank you. Minister, I don't know if you want to add something. I'd say that we need people like this. Thank you for having shared with us this experience, and with me personally. From me, thank you. I think that we must only believe in the faith, but also believe in people. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, our guests, everybody who's here, for your testimony, also for your work, for the passion that you've shown in front of us. I'd like to underline one of the many things which you were saying of the need of a human presence in whatever condition. That we find it very interesting, very deep, that it brings us to a great truth of the person, which deep down is relationship. Deep down in the depth of a person, there's a relationship and not solitude. And this, I think, was something that like a guideline and a line that a common thread among these different perspectives, but for different functions, different histories that met on this stage. So I thank you for your willingness to come and dialogue with us and to tell us things that probably aren't easy to talk about. So I really sincerely thank you, and thank you all. With one last thing, that the meeting is nearly finished. One of the words that's most recurred from this stage is gift, and I think it has another meaning, also that one of donations, to sustain a bit this meeting where dialogues like this can happen. And there aren't many places, I think, like this, so full of generosity, that live from our generosity, from yours. And so before going off, given that the Fiera will close this evening, maybe try considering to pass to one of the many Dona Ora points with a red heart that you'll see all around the Fiera, and make a donation. And as the Foundation is a third sector entity, this also has you can also enjoy the tax benefits of this. But given this encounter, you'll know what we're giving for encounters like this. Thank you all. Thank you.
Questo è un luogo che genera dialogo,
Qualcuno che si impegna, che si batte.
che approfondisce la conoscenza e sostiene la fiducia. È un crocevia dove si incontra chi desidera il vero, il bello, il giusto e il bene. È una testimonianza di speranza nel cuore ferito del presente. E tutto questo
Proporre con la propria vita
esiste anche grazie a te.